So as we have been doing throughout this series on The Way, we've been looking at different practices from the life of Jesus and how those practices play out in our own lives. And one of the blessings that I've had as part of this series is to be able to interview different people from our lives as church and see what the practice looks like in their lives. And we were hoping to have both yourself and Steve this morning, but he's not here this morning. No. He's recovering from a surgery.
Operation and he's recovering.
Yeah, so he's with us this morning in spirit, but he can't be with us in the room. And so we wanted to just chat to yourself and Steve as well about community, because you guys have got a wealth of experience in this area of doing community, doing life together with others. But before we dig into that, tell us a little bit about your lives. What does life look like for you both outside of church, and how you've been involved in church life over the years as well?
Right, well, so I'm Mandy and married to Steve. We were both baptised in the old Baptist church that was here when we were 19. We were married in that church 53 years ago, and between us we've been attending for 132 years.
Whew.
I think we're the longest attendees at the moment.
Amazing, amazing.
We have 2 adult children, Simon and Lizzie, 4 grandchildren, aged from 15 to 22. Sadly, our youngest granddaughter, Amelia, died when she was 6. We have been involved in the church for since we were 18. We started with the youth work and did that for many years.
Well done.
We also, many years ago, I was one of the leaders of the play school that was here, before Tree House started. We ran a bookstall. Steve was on the leadership team, and we were both house group leaders, which we still are, and house group pastors. Work-wise, Steve was very much involved with Christian publishing and distribution, and I worked for CRE, the Christian Resources Exhibition. That was taken over by the Bible Society, and Steve became a director of CRE, and we worked for the Bible Society for a number of years before we, in 2010, set up our own ministry of helping Christian publishers, suppliers, and retail shops. We ran a 2-day conference and published a magazine. The conference included exhibition, networking, seminars, guest speakers such as N.T. Wright, J. John, Pete Gregg.
Wow.
And also an awards evening. And one year, the Christian Suppliers Group and the Christian Booksellers Group got together and awarded Steve and myself the award of Outstanding Contribution to the Christian Trade.
Wow. Fair play.
We retired from running our ministry in 2023 and handed it over to others to carry on the ministry.
Amazing. So, you guys have got a wealth of experience doing life with other people, doing life in ministry. So can you think back to what first drew you into getting involved in some of this? Was there a particular moment? Was there a first home group?
To start doing things within the church?
Yeah.
That was Martin White, Lizzie Belson's dad. He was the youth coordinator and young people's coordinator, and we went through the youth work together, and when we got to 18 he said, right, you've been looked after for all these years, now it's your turn to give back. So you need to think about what you're going to do. So we then both became within the youth group and leaders and worked our way up until we were helping to organise. Just before Jeff came.
Yeah, wow. Such a wealth of experience of living and serving in church life. You mentioned a role as being house group leaders, which you still
Yes.
are, of your current home group, and house group pastors here at church for a number of years. So much so that you've actually quite literally written the book on it.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing that for? And tell us a little bit about what that's looked like in your lives.
Well, house group started here at Southcourt back in the 1980s. We had a congregation of getting on for 300, and it was felt people needed to get together not just for prayer and Bible study, but to be cared for. So you would be part of a home group not everybody attended, but it meant that someone was caring for you. And we've been doing house group leadership ever since. We became house group pastors, which meant you were looking after, say, up to 6 groups, and looking after the groups and the leaders, and then liaising with the church pastor.
Yeah. Amazing. And so as part of that period of time in your lives, you guys have written a book that I think you wanted to share a little bit from.
We were approached by a Christian publishing company and asked if we would write a book on organising and running home groups. The book sold internationally, was published in the UK and in the US. And from that, we were asked by churches within this country to go around and do training days, which we did for a number of years. And I just wanted to read a couple of short passages, very short. This is just to give you some idea of being in a home group. You don't have to be a theologian or really good at prayer to be in part of a home group. Now, this is about my parents, so it's quite a few years old. I was brought up in a loving family with parents who believed in God, but did not consider church attendance necessary, although they did send me to Sunday school. Through the witness of my Sunday school teachers, Mum started to attend church and came to a personal faith in Christ. Dad remained true to his convictions. He had nothing against the church, but it was not for him. It was 25 years later, when Dad was in his mid-60s, that he committed his life to Christ. I later had the privilege of Mum and Dad attending my home group. Dad enjoyed asking questions, while Mum was happy to listen. My parents were good people whose lives and faith were uncomplicated. They had no desire to wrestle with theological doctrines. It was sufficient to know the love of Jesus. Home group provided them with a safe and secure place where they could be themselves and ask questions without fear or embarrassment. Sadly, Mum and Dad are no longer with us and are missed by the group, not for their eloquent prayers. In fact, neither of them would pray aloud, but simply for who they were. And one other short story. This is to do with leadership and understanding your group and the kind of people that are in your group. Now, this is slightly amusing, but it is actually a true story. If you're not a dog lover, it can be both an off-putting and frightening experience to open your eyes during the prayer time to come face to face with a dog. With its bad breath filling your nostrils, a glint in its eyes, bringing a new level of urgency to your prayers. Gone are all thoughts of world peace to be replaced by, Lord, just grant me small miracle. Will someone please lock this animal in the kitchen? And what about the hip home group leader who calls time out during the Bible study to change the baby on the living room floor and tries to make it acceptable by saying, carry on, just ignore us, sorry about the smell. I am not suggesting that children and pets should be locked away, never to be seen or heard, but rather sensitivity should be exercised, especially where pets are concerned. Not everyone is comfortable with animals and may even be allergic to them. An over-amorous dog or frightening animal can be a reason why people stop attending home group.
Yeah, we have a cat in our family. And my home group is sat in a couple of front rows there. And regularly we will come to pray at the end of our home group. And usually somebody will get freaked out by a tail whipping them in the face. I can sympathise with that story. So many years of experience and doing life in community. And if you had to kind of summarize the impact it's had on your life, what would you say?
Well, I think home groups for us is where you make friends to start with. And because we've been doing it so long, we have lifelong friends who, some of them no longer live in Aylesbury, but we are still in contact. We get invited to family events. But it's also a place where you can get together to pray, and you can talk about things that are concerning you in confidence, knowing that what's said in those 4 walls will stay in those 4 walls, and that then people will pray for you. It's also a place where you can pray for the church, for the country, for the world, and of course have a Bible study where you can look at a passage together and ask questions and talk it through as a group.
Yeah. Amazing. They're an amazing way to do life with other people, where we
Yes.
learn from others, grow together, and grow in ourselves
Yes.
as well. So amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing a bit of your life and your history and the time spent doing life in community. Can we give Mandy a
Thank you.
round of applause? Thanks, Mandy.